Hi there, I'm Steven, and today I have a quick Photoshop Fix-It tutorial I'd like to share with you guys. So this was the image I found in one of the magazines I have at home, and right off the bat you can see, like many models, her legs are freakishly long, and in her hand over here, if I just zoom in, we can see that the shadow does not properly line up with the rest of the arm. So once again, I'm just going to run through a quick tutorial on how to fix an image that I have of myself that I mimicked this problem with. Just quickly before I do that, I'd like to show you that I did indeed find this picture in a magazine. Okay, so now that I have my image opened here in Photoshop, let's get started. So I would say the first thing we would probably want to start off with is the arm, being that it is the smaller piece, so we can get it out of the way quicker. So the first thing you're going to want to do is head over to your quick selection tool and begin to sort of trace out the arm. Now you can see as I'm going along here, it's picking up pieces of the arm in the background, and we don't want that. So what we're going to do is hold on the Alt and Option button on a Mac, and this will slowly deselect areas that are unwanted. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this here. And if you do see that it is deselecting parts that you want, you can always just go back and click in to reselect things. So once you have selected the arm and you're happy with your selection, you can quickly hold on Command C to copy this selection, and I'll show you why we do that in just a moment. So now what we want to do is delete this arm by hitting the delete button and selecting the content aware option. And what this will do is remove the arm itself, but at the same time sample areas within the background to sort of create an artificial background and just sort of blend everything together. Now it probably won't work perfectly, as you can see here, but we can get around this problem by using a few other tools. So I'm going to hold on Command D just to deselect the arm, and the first thing I would probably do is sort of clean up the area with my spot healing brush. And just by simply coloring over the arm, you can see that we're removing the outline that was left over from the other arm. So if you just go ahead and slowly clean up this area. Now you can see when we did the content aware delete, it did get rid of some of my other arm that we actually want to keep intact. So we can go ahead by using the clone stamp tool to sort of repatch up any areas that went missing. So we can kind of just color it back in here. Oh, we don't want that. And to kind of blend everything together, we can use the spot healing brush. It is getting rid of it, so we're going to go back here. And kind of just hide whatever it is we don't want. So when you're happy with that, you can zoom back out. And now going back to the time where I copied the other arm, we're going to go ahead and create a new layer here. And we're going to paste my arm back in. So once we've done that, we're going to use the Move tool, and we can now have full control of the arm and sort of manipulate it in a way to put it back into its somewhat proper position. So you can see when we did copy it back over, we did leave some excess skin from the other arm, so I'm just going to go ahead and clean this area up a little bit using the eraser tool. And that looks alright. So now, maneuvering this into position. The easiest way to do this would probably be by holding Command T, and this is like transforming your selection. So from here, I'm going to move it into position and also, no, not shrink it, but rotate it slightly just to kind of put it into somewhat of a natural position. And you can see that that right there isn't so bad. It looks like that's where the arm would generally be. Okay, so moving right along here, we have now fixed the issue with the arm. Let's move on to the legs. And just before we get going, I'm just gonna say how these steps are pretty much identical. We're gonna head over to the quick selection tool and begin to select the areas in which we want to shrink. So once again, we did select a little bit more than what we needed, so we're just going to hold on the Option key and slowly deselect what it is we don't want. And that looks about right. So we're going to quickly copy the selection by hitting Command C. Oops, we're on the wrong layer. And now, once again, deleting the selection with the Content Aware tool. So you can see it did actually do a fairly good job this time with removing the legs and keeping the background fairly intact. So once again, by hitting Command D, we're going to just release our selection and creating the new layer now by heading down over here to the Create New Layer tab. We're going to paste the legs back in using Command V. So obviously that's not where my legs belong, so by using the Move tool, we will drag those back into position roughly about there. Okay, so now that we've moved the legs into position, it's time to scale them down and give it a more realistic look. So once again, by hitting Command T, we're going to use the transform tool, but this time not just with these basic control points. We're going to head up here to the top and use this tool right here, which is the warp tool. Essentially what this does is it gives us a few more control points to sort of manipulate and drag around. So what we're going to do here is slowly bring everything down point by point. Just to kind of fill everything back in. We can head down here to the shoes and sort of pull things up a bit. And once again, there is no perfect spot. It's just kind of going back in there to sort of finesse everything back into position and somewhat give my legs, in this case, a more realistic look. Let's just see how they look there. Kind of just pull these down a little bit more. And you can see as I'm doing this, once again, the content aware delete did leave some things left over. So you can go back in here with the spot healing brush and kind of just trace over any areas that you don't want. Oops, we're on the wrong layer. And just kind of trace over everything. Getting rid of the outline. There is a bit of a problem over here. We can kind of just paint over. And to fill this back in here, we can use the clone stamp tool by sampling some of the other areas within the shirt and kind of just painting it all back over. And there you have it. So that was basically a quick Photoshop Fix-It tutorial on, I guess, using a few tools here. We used the quick selection, the clone stamp, spot healing, and the transform warp tool. In terms of preventing the issue in general. So if we just head back over to the original image, I mean, almost everything nowadays that you find in a magazine is photoshopped, and with models they do, photographers and Photoshop editors do like to extend the legs to give the model a more slim, tall, lean effect. So I don't know if you'd be able to prevent that in such a way, but I guess in this case, using these tools in Photoshop, you can fix that problem if you want to. So having said that, that concludes my tutorial, and I hope you guys learned a little bit about how to fix such an error. Thank you.